Ready? Good morning to all. Welcome. Glad to have each of you here. And I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order of the Kansas Post-Secondary Technical Education Authority, March 28, 2024. Our chairman, unfortunately, is not feeling well, so I'll be leading the meeting today. So thank you for your patience. Please be kind, okay? So anyway, and I also want to welcome our Zoom folks. Well, there's Deb too. Hi, Deb. And Cindy and David. So welcome to you three. Glad you could join us in that way. So appreciate you coming on and taking the time to get on in the Zoom meeting. So one thing I do need to mention, I'd like to add to our agenda. TA members will need to recess to meet in an executive session, and that'll follow item H on our agenda. So we'll move into executive session right after item H. And then we'll reconvene after our regular meeting after the executive session. Okay, are there any changes or additions to the agenda that TA members need to offer or would like to offer? If not, I would accept a motion as presented.
So moved.
On our minutes from February 29th.
I'd second it.
Okay. You guys are getting ahead of me here a little bit, but yeah, you can keep it going. Huh? So, all right, we have a motion second to accept the minutes as presented. So any opposed? If not, minutes approved as presented. So thank you. Do we have any introductions of any this morning? Okay. I would say not. So member liaison reports. Does anyone have something they'd like to report? Okay. Natalie.
Thank you, Chair. We wanted to report some of the great things going on in CTE. I was remiss. In February, we had our February annual CTE conference, and we have standing room only. We had 500 registered for the conference. We have kicked off our Career and Technical Student Organization state conferences. We had BPA at Friends University, 484 students, and 240 students will be attending nationals. We had DECA at Kansas State University the first week in March, 729 students from 38 high schools, and we'll have 228 students going on to international DECA. HOSA, I was there yesterday, Kansas State University, a healthcare organization competing in events. And as we speak, TSA is also going on at Webster Conference Center in Salina. Next week, we have FBLA here in Topeka at the Expo Center, FCCLA April 7th through the 9th, and Skills USA in Hutchinson will be April 24th, 25, and 26. And rounding out our 8th Career and Technical Student Organization, we support FFA. They'll be kicking off their events in April on campus, the 28th through the 30th. I also wanted to say one more thing. We have reviewed 7 of our 16 clusters, and partners, our colleagues from the Board of Regents, have also joined us for those meetings, as well as Department of Labor. We're out for public comment on those now, and we'll take them before our advisory board for information in April.
Okay, thank you. Busy days. Anyone else? Okay, if not.
Hey, I'm sorry. I was trying to get my note or so I don't miss something here. I just want to thank, we've had 3 recent economic development projects, Marvin Windows, H&T Recharge, and GAF, Newton, Kansas City Market. I just want to thank the community and technical colleges for their part in that effort. These are 3 good examples of where our education partners came to the table and were part of our pitch to these companies. All 3 of these have been roughly about a year in the works, but it just proves the value and importance of our education system in the state of Kansas. And I'd also be remiss, I think I don't know, our community and tech college reps may have to correct me, but I think we're entering the season of national letters of intent for our community and tech colleges. So I'll be at the one in Chanute with Neosho County Community College later in April, and I know several are kicking off that date and before. So if any of you are available and want to attend, I'm sure you would be welcomed at these events.
Good. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, it's coming up that season. And have plans to attend Washburn Tech, their signing day. They have a new dean there who just hid in the back of the room, but so I look forward to that. What a great day. I mean, the signing day. Who would have ever thought that it would be what it is today? And especially who would have ever thought it would be the brainchild of Clark Coco? I mean, if that doesn't get your attention, I don't know what does, you know? So the first time I attended, when Clark was there, their signing day, I mean, it was more excitement in the room in some ways than graduation. It was just unbelievable, you know, to see the parents, how excited they were, and then certainly the students. So what a wonderful time. So I agree, Mike, if there's any opportunity that you can take advantage of, TA members, please, try to attend one of these signing days. They're pretty exciting. So anyone else? Well, hello, there you are. Welcome. I didn't.
Absolutely, absolutely. On that note of the signing day, I'm so glad that came on the heels of that, because for this year, which I haven't proposed this in the past since being on this board, but I thought it might be nice to have a bridge with the K-12 institutions for this, because we have a signing day in high schools. So the signing day, which I'll be with you at Washburn Tech's signing day, I'll attend this year in particular because of the new dean and just what they're doing that's new. But I thought it might be nice for all of our superintendents to propose that in Topeka and in other places, if we all highlight students that we know are signing to a tech school or a two-year college, but if we can highlight the young people that are signing for tech schools that are high school students, and imagine if 300 plus districts did that, how powerful that would be to see that on social media. So we haven't had a marketing conversation, but as a marketing piece and keeping that uppermost in our mind right before May, we have a lot of young people that are finishing. Many, at least in our district, we have about a couple hundred that graduated in December that are planning on signing to a tech school. So proposing that, and should that happen and be a social media piece across the state, then I'll be bringing back next month with how that went. We certainly will do it in Topeka. We will be sharing it with the other superintendents and asking for others to sign on. And maybe this can be yet another way to say, here's the other avenue for high school young people in the future. We're excited about that. That's really the only update right now. And there are others, but that piece of signing day and where you're going to go in the next 2 months is really the big focus, at least for us. And we know for other superintendents across the state. And good morning. Happy almost Good Friday.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, if not, we're going to move on. And we're going to call on Interim Vice President Rita Johnson, provide us with a report on workforce development.
Okay, the unit's been very busy this month. I do want to say we have a team that's comprised of state staff and personnel from Next Step Alliance, which is a partnership with Goodwill and WSU Tech, as well as Kansas City, Kansas Community College's Adult Education, took part in an IET, and that's Integrated Education and Training, IET, Advanced Design Bootcamp. And this group is working to develop strategies to spread to all of the adult education centers across the state to implement IET practices. And those involve coordinating basic educational skills with job-specific training, resulting in recognized credentials for individuals who are in the adult ed centers for those services. Also annually, board staff is required to review the approved programs for the Promise Act to determine whether they continue in eligibility. That review has been completed and all of the programs have been deemed eligible. Again, there were no programs that would be removed from eligibility this year. However, we do want to remind the colleges that each college is allowed to select a fifth field of study. And we want to remind them if they want to make a change to any of those fifth fields, they need to submit a written request to the staff by May 8th. Also, in 2023, the legislature passed Senate Bill 123, which is called the CTE Credential and Transition Incentive for Employment Success. Don't know if they could get any more words in that, but that's the name of the act. And basically the act, it was part of a larger, it's a subset of a bigger bill. But this particular act allows high school students, or it's a avenue for high school students to request their USD pay for any fees charged for assessments required for the high school student to approved industry sought certification. So those CTE students can request their USDs to pay for the assessments for those certifications. It does not say this USDs are required to, but they can at least ask. And as a result, we work with KSDE and we jointly, KBOR and KSDE are required to survey the USDs, the school districts, as well as our colleges to identify the credentials, those industry recognized credentials that would meet this particular requirement. And institutions we did submit, or we sent out to all the college residents on the 20th, information that if they want to provide any feedback to USD, to the KSDE regarding those credentials, want to add any, there is a link. It's called the CTE Pathway Credential Recommendation, and I believe it's on KSDE's website. And so you provide feedback at that point. So we would ask that you do that. We're also pleased to announce that on March 20th, we received notification from Octave, that's our federal partners, that our 22-23 Perkins Consolidated Annual Report was accepted. And there were no data errors needed correction, and we have met the performance requirements. So we came out good on that. We do have our Perkins teams out. They will be conducting mandatory Perkins program monitoring reviews. And in preparation for these visits, the institutions are completing self-evaluations, highlighting their strengths and identifying gaps in performance and management. The annual Coalition on Adult Basic Education National Conference was held this year in Nashville from March 17th to 20th. And over 30 Kansas adult education staff attended either virtually or in person. And our own director, Hector Martinez, of course, attended in person. He is currently the president-elect of this organization. And this is a national organization, and it serves more than 79,000 educators and over 1.5 million adult learners. So also Associate Directors Wood and Leite have conducted MOA or Methods of Administration visits at Manhattan Area Technical Colleges on March 20th through 22nd, and Flint Hills Technical College on March 25th through 27th. They just finished that up yesterday. The adult education staff has conducted an on-site monitoring visit at Kansas City, Kansas Community College Adult Education Program on March 7th. They did 2 monitoring visits, were completed in the fall, and there is 1 more scheduled yet this fiscal year in April. And last, I am sad to announce that Sue Gross Didier our Associate Director for High School Equivalency, is retiring from KBOR next week on April 4th. Sue started at KBOR in July of 2017, and I want to take this opportunity to recognize and thank her for her outstanding work she has done here at the board office, for her support and friendship as a member of the workforce development staff, and most of all, for her dedication to all of the students who have benefited and advanced from her tireless efforts. I also want to extend to her our heartfelt condolences on the passing of her mother, and those services will be held tomorrow in Eudora. So.
Let's give her a hand. I love her passion on the, people she serves. Boy, it's a life changing and sometimes saving people's lives. So Sue, thank you so much, and best to you. All right, we're going to move on and hear from our community colleges. And Ryan, welcome, President of Garden City Community College.
Morning. Good to be able to be with you. This month, our focus on the report from the community colleges will align to the business pillar on the strategic plan, really just taking a look specifically at the talent pipeline and innovation. So we have a few community colleges that we wanted to highlight as far as efforts that are being done on the talent pipeline innovation. At Colby Community College, they've had a recent agriculture career fair that was completed on May 6th, bringing ag employers to campus and connecting them with students and potential career opportunities. And then they will also be hosting a more broad career fair for all employers in Northwest Kansas on April 18th for employers to be able to come and directly link with students as well. Also at Colby, they have announced a new one-year feedlot certificate program. This is a 15 credit hour curriculum that really looks at aligning a lot of the specific skill sets as far as feedlot techniques, welding, horsemanship, beef production. And then at the end of the program, they also have an internship that is possible for students with Foot Cattle Company there as well. So good things happening at Colby. At Cloud County Community College, with their nursing program, they have partnered with several area hospitals to support students who are attending their associate degree program in nursing. One specific example that they provided was at the North Central Kansas Medical Center. They have opportunities available at the hospital for students to be able to work while they're going through the program. So they're able to earn a stipend and gain hours and experience that ultimately will lead them into an RN position that is tied to service at the completion of their associate degree in nursing. Cloud has also officially started and became a member of the American Welding Society. And so they will be moving forward on providing welding opportunities. And then they've also expanded their CDL program by adding 2 more trucks to be able to meet industry demand at Cloud County. Seward County Community College has partnered with Southwest Energy Institute and brought some new short course industry training specifically in petroleum, natural gas, and corrosion. And so they will be working with this company to expand not only their offerings, but scholarship opportunities for students that are available. And then they've also recently started a maintenance technician program that is working with National Beef to be able to have individuals gain basic knowledge and understanding of facilities maintenance and skills required on industry equipment in the beef industry. Garden City Community College, well, we could go on for days with this duel, but we'll shorten it. Garden City Community College, we have a few different career fairs as well. We'll be hosting a junior day on April 27th, where we'll be bringing in several hundred juniors from across Southwest Kansas. provide them opportunities to learn about the different careers and paths that are available. Also, just want to mention that next Wednesday, April 3rd, I would invite you, if you're able to come. We'll be having a ribbon cutting ceremony on 2 new facilities that we will be opening up for the community. The first one will be at 10:30 with our new STEM Success Center. The STEM Success Center is a part of a Title III federal grant that we secured 3 years ago that would allow us to bring on computer science, cybersecurity, robotics, and then we will be also adding on crop production technology. So the STEM Success Center has the new classrooms for robotics and computer science, cybersecurity. And then immediately following that, we will transition over and have a ribbon cutting on our expansion of our John Deere Ag Tech program. We will be opening that program. We opened the facility this spring, but we will actually be opening the program and expanding from serving 25 students currently to be able to take in up to 40 students. Again, due to industry demand and being able to be responsive to that. We will have Senator Moran in attendance there just to help with celebrating the ribbon cutting on both of those buildings as well. We also have partnered with the Kansas Department of Education to offer the educational components of the Kansas Registered Apprenticeship Program to be able to have aspiring teachers working alongside teachers in the classroom and learning while they complete their associate's degree and transition to completing their bachelor's degree. So this will be a great new pathway that affords some opportunities for students that are aspiring to be in that field. And then the last institution, Neosho County Community College, wanted to highlight some success that they've seen. This year, they have realized enrollment growth of 8.4% in credit hours. Specifically, as we take a look at the technical fields, headcount in the technical programs is up 5.5% and credit hours are up 5.6%. The other piece of that is not just realizing the growth in enrollment, but also the success that comes from earning credentials and earning the ability to sustain wage. So within the talent pipeline, the graduation, the credentials and the number of credentials that they have awarded for high demand sustaining wage professions has increased by 5.6% over the course of the last 3 years as well. So not only growing in enrollment, but growing in success at that end as well. Several of their programs have increased success rates, with nursing sitting at 94% success rate and several other programs at 100% pass rates on the technical skill assessments. And then the final piece with Neosho County is that they have, over the course of the last 5 years, brought on 7 new programs within the technical trades. And so they have really looked at being able to address the talent pipeline and innovation there by bringing on new technical programs and expanding existing technical programs to respond to this particular pillar on the strategic plan. So happy to stand for any questions, but that is a summary of what is going on at the community colleges.
Any questions, comments? Well, thank you for staying impartial in your delivery and highlighting these.
Tough.
You know, congratulations to all that you mentioned today. And there's obviously many more, but for the good work that's going on, particularly in their communities, you know, and how meaningful is that for their community, these institutions. So thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. All right, we're moving on, and we have a report from Jim Jeanette, who I think is going to join us virtually. There's Jim, you there?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, my youngest daughter had to have some outpatient surgery this morning, so she came through fine. We're waiting for her to come back to the room, but I apologize for not being there. Some quick highlights from our institutions, and like Ryan and his group, you know, Tech programs in particular, as you know, are the hot topic in almost every part of the state. With Washburn Tech, they launched a new certified logistic technician program at Fort Riley. They have 15 students signed up for that, and they're doing that in partnership with the Manufacturing Institute, and that also supports Heroes Make America efforts. They also have been providing medical bus service for their students. The bus comes to their campus 2 or 3 times a week to help provide some medical needs to the students and faculty and staff of Washburn Tech. And that's really important these days. Salina Tech, they're getting pretty excited about the new building. They've got the foundation board, materials are on hand. They've hired a new instructor for pharmacy tech program to start in the fall. Their accreditation visit for dental hygiene went very well. Nursing accreditation was granted candidacy status from ASIN for their new AAS or ADN degree in nursing. And then their student services vice president, Eric Kruckenberg, was selected for this year's group of Leadership Kansas. So congratulations to Erica. Flint Hills Tech had hosted a legislative dialogue on their campus on May 16th. They've presented their new strategic vision for 2030 at HLC coming up in a few days at that conference. And then their welding faculty have been offering the basics of GMA and SMA welding workshops to 4-H members from around the area. These kids range in age from 10 to 16, and they're getting techniques in some pretty important welding applications for agriculture. Sherry and Wichita Tech, again, great stuff there. They had their Pull a Plane event on March 9th with B29 and raised $125,000 for scholarships with that event. They also had a press conference with Bombardier to announce a new apprenticeship program, and they had their accreditation visit in late February and are expecting good report on that soon. Ben at Northwest Tech, they have a new renovated Price Convention Center. They held a grand opening on the 24th of February. It's a 20,000 square foot facility for college and community events. They had all sorts of people there, and the building was named after Zona Price, who had served the college, and the Goodland Elks Lodge for a combined 60 years of service. So that's pretty amazing and great recognition. Their diesel program, they are adding 5,000 square foot of space for the diesel program. That expansion will allow them to have record enrollments by this fall. Working on some tire company economic development in the county, which included a $320 million project announcement. And the college is partnering with Zero Waste LLC to provide CDL instruction, heavy equipment repair, and safety training, as well as other assistance for this tire project. North Central Tech, Eric, like all of us, registration days, open house days at both of their campuses, and they're getting a lot of interest as well. On my campus, we just finished 2 days of career fairs. The first day on Tuesday was for healthcare. Yesterday was the other trades. Over the 2 days, we had over 100 employers and probably about between 250 and 300 participants. It's open to the community as well as to our students. And then yesterday, I was at a planning meeting. The Community Foundation has received some funding from the state and getting local support for an interesting project. It's a community accelerator project that will establish 6 to 8 pods to promote childcare training. That could be either in the home or to start at the center. We'll be involved with that as well as working in their multi-purpose room to provide other assistance with expansion of adult ed and courses to that new center by fall of 25. It will also include space for Hard Works to be present, and they will also be a local free clinic available at that center to provide healthcare assistance to the participants, all the children. And then our new building scheduled for construction completion by the end of April. The board approved a furniture purchase the other night at board meeting. And so mark your calendars for a ribbon cutting on the afternoon of August 29th at the new Advanced Technology Center at MATC. And with that, I'd be glad to answer questions.
Okay, any questions of Jim? Comments?
It's not really a question, Jim, but I can't help but notice that you're sitting in the hospital lobby. So your dedication and commitment to sharing with us your report as you sit in a waiting room, know that my thoughts, and I'm sure the thoughts of others, are with your daughter as she gets out of surgery. So just want to extend that. And then the date you mentioned at the very end, I didn't get my little notepad open quick enough to jot that down. Can you repeat that date, sir, for the ribbon
Yep.
cutting?
August 29th. It will be in the afternoon. And appreciate your kind remarks about our daughter. She's pretty cool. She's a special needs kid that we got at 20 months old, and then we adopted her. She's 22 years old now and has come a long way. And this is about her 20th or 21st surgery for her life. So she's a pretty good trooper with it. So we get pretty nervous, but she's pretty cool.
Well, thank you.
Well, obviously, Jim, our prayers and thoughts are with you and your daughter. So, well, thank you for being able to join us today and share the good work that's going on. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, TA members, we're moving on our agenda. We have next is our consent agenda. And we have 3 items on the consent agenda from our program and curriculum committee. And I would accept a motion.
Mr. Chair, I will move to approve the consent agenda, specifically items A, 1, 2, and 3.
Second. We have a second. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay. What is it? Okay, got it. Okay, we're moving on now to our discussion agenda. And that is from our budget committee, AY 2025 Excel and CTE fees. And we'll ask Sharman to come for this presentation, but as she is coming to the microphone, I just want everyone, you know, you may recall in a previous meeting, there were a number of concerns expressed regarding the amounts and primarily the increases associated with the fees. And since that time, of course, additional information was requested, has been collected and reviewed by the colleges, and will now we'll hear from Sharman about what we found out following, you know, our concerns. So
Yes,
thank you.
sir. Thank you, Vice Chair Frederick. So before we dive into the fees themselves, it might be a little bit helpful to take a quick step back. Something that we include with every issue paper for Excel and CTE fees, whether it is for the full system approval or when the Program and Curriculum Committee and therefore then the TEA and KBOR are looking at fees for Excel and CTE for new programs, we use basically that same issue paper all the time. So we always have the statute sort of in front of us, but we don't often refer back to it. And so just very quickly as we march forward, we want to take just a quick moment to kind of reframe and make sure that we're all thinking about all of these things in the same lens. So in your issue paper, under the background area, we have an excerpt that we always include from the statute itself. And the second paragraph of that refers to fees specifically. And fees are those charges that are for books, supplies, and other materials necessary for a particular course or program, and the expense of which is not covered by tuition already. That's just a little recap. And tuition then are those charges that are typically assessed on a per credit hour basis or per course or per term, and they're charged to cover the general expense of providing instructional services. So fees are always in addition to and above the general expense of providing instructional services. And as we start to look at this review at this point, I'm going to deviate from my typical approach a little bit because I'd like to direct you to the last page of your issue paper first. I'd like to talk quickly through some of the areas that we'd like a little bit of clarification on, because I think they may represent some exceptions to the final hopeful motion to approve all of the Excel and CTE fees today. So we had a couple of instances that we have run across as KBOR staff where the fees that were submitted are a little bit different than what we normally see. So we were looking for some guidance and clarification moving forward to make sure that what we're also providing to the institutions is what the authority would have us work through. So we gave you a couple of instances to think about, and we do have a couple of ideas or recommendations, if you will, for your consideration on each one of these as you look at them. But first of all, we received some fees this time that were being assessed at a per credit hour rate. The rate was actually $20 per credit hour. The information that we were given indicates that this is for ebooks and physical books or a combination of the two. In this particular case, due partly to the similarity to how tuition is assessed, and we know for Excel and CTE, our institutions don't charge tuition, they receive that funding directly from the state instead. And in addition to that, there is a lot of similarity here between the allowable fees of e-subscriptions and textbooks. We would recommend, or at least for discussion and consideration, that perhaps this particular approach to assessing fees for Excel and CTE, that we go back to the institution and we modify this to have them actually provide the ebooks specifically by name and the fees for those, the physical textbooks by name and the fees for those. That would remain a lot more consistent with how we're seeing those fees assessed by other institutions. And I would just pause real quick for questions because I have a feeling that maybe these issues, we may want to deal with them separately. Any thoughts?
I don't have a question, but I agree. I think the more clarity we can get with specifics gives us all more information, and I would agree completely.
I would agree too, if they're on the allowable and it's clear if it's on that unallowable that we're supposed to review.
That's Dave, right?
Awesome. Go ahead.
I think I would agree if you're gonna carve them out, because I think that we need to get down the road for the institutions, because they're having all the students visit and they need the information for next year. So if there's a way to carve out some exceptions and get the rest of it approved today, I think that'd be good.
And it would be at the pleasure of the authority if you wanted to do perhaps a separate motion for that, or if we want to do a combined one at the end. I'm not real sure how we feel.
Yeah, so what may be an option is to have a motion pertaining only to this issue about this per credit hour, contribution here.
I would so move. If I understood, I'm not quite sure what the qualitative distinction is between the different examples you brought to us, but if you think that they're different enough that they should be handled separately, then I would move that first one about the ebooks should be revisited with the institution to cost it up other than the per credit hour as they've proposed.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any other comments? And again, we're just talking about that first box there at this point. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Sounds like
Great. Thank you.
got some direction.
So the other items in that particular box are pertaining to printing costs for state curriculum materials that either are online or may be available in some other fashion. A recommendation for you all to consider, there is, once those items are printed, there is definitely some similarity then to the textbooks that are on the approved list and our students actually physically leave with. And due to that similarity, we thought you might consider going ahead and if you thought it would be appropriate to approve printing fees in these cases.
Thoughts?
This is Dave Rives again. I would agree because by printing it, you're probably saving the students some costs anyway over buying a book. And so I would be in favor of that.
Sounds like a motion, Dave.
Yeah, so moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Cindy?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Not all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Passes.
Excellent. All right. And then the other example that we brought forward concerned specifically OSHA certification costs. And we have a category by which institutions provide us the information about the industry recognized certifications, which have a cost to them. And SB 123 then also goes forward to address. And during the process of getting the feedback from the institutions, what we found in these instances, because you can see there is quite a variance in the rates here listed for OSHA 30, says the last one says $169 versus what we typically often see is about $10. And what we found out is that this actually often refers to the subscription costs for the online OSHA testing that provides the actual content and coursework for OSHA. So in this case, what we might consider is the assumption that these totals represent, when they deviate from the $10, they represent both of those costs added together, and that perhaps we approve them this year with the caveat that moving forward, we would like to perhaps see the subscription costs separated from the actual certification costs so that we as an authority and KBOR staff can identify exactly what those individual fees are that make that up. Presumably for industry recognized certifications such as OSHA, there would be an assumption that the fee for that should be pretty standard and there should be pretty much the same fee for everyone, if that makes sense. So I'm not sure if that recommendation makes sense. We could certainly follow up with institutions now to potentially have them separate those costs out so that you could see the difference between the subscription versus the certification as well would be a possibility.
I don't know that we need a motion to do that. Perhaps
Consensus.
just a consensus, anyone that would feel differently? Okay.
So would we would be comfortable with perhaps approving these fees this year and then moving forward,
That-
make those changes?
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So those are kind of the one-offs, if you will, the oddities. So after the meeting on January 25th, we went back to the institutions. We provided each one of them a spreadsheet to provide some feedback on their programs in which the fees increased more than $150 from 24 to 25. And then any fee rates higher than the median rate for the program area for aligned programs, and then a couple of other programs that are actually extremely high participation, nurse aid, medication aid, things like that. So we received that feedback. And we also then found out during that process that there were some fees that needed some updates. So we reopened the collection. We made those updates. We provided those updates as well to the Budget and Finance Committee on March 14th. And they had some additional questions that they had for the technical and community colleges. We provided those questions out. Those are actually here on your issue paper as well. And both the community and technical colleges have provided some feedback that you have a hard copy separate from your packet at your spot there as well. So you have that feedback from them. Additionally, separate from your packet, what you have in front of you is a copy of the fees and how they have changed from AY 24 to AY 25. And then any modifications that might have also resulted from this last reopening of the collection and taking that further look. So what we should have is sort of circling back, hopefully, answers to some of the questions that the authority posed. And so we would stand, and I say we, is Ryan here as well, and Jim on the line. We would stand for questions outstanding about the fees at this point.
It's a lot to digest, folks, but what questions, comments might you have after receiving all of this information? And I appreciate community colleges, Ryan, for your responses. Same way with Jim and the technical colleges, answering some questions that came up in our Finance and Budget Committee. So, thoughts? And I'm pausing because it's just a lot of
So
information.
I agree, Ray. A lot of information to digest. After looking at the documents that were shared with us, I think earlier this week or last week, and now looking at reviewing again the allowable and unallowable fees, where does material, I guess classroom materials and supplies fall in, Charmin?
Well, the classroom materials and supplies would be typically, it sort of depends on the materials. So in the unallowable list, we don't allow consumable project materials. But we also know that on the allowable side, we have professional equipment, kits, and tools. And oftentimes those materials sort of fit into that tools arena, if you will, because they, for instance, in cosmetology, they need to have a toolkit with the basic scissors and other implements and what have you in order to actively participate in the coursework and actually demonstrate their knowledge of what they've been taught. I'm not sure that answers your question. It kind of
Well,
depends.
let me narrow it down.
Okay.
If it's a welding course, for example, or supplies and materials, would they be in relation to metal and welding rods and flux and all of that stuff that would go into the practice of welding?
Typically, those costs would be covered under the extraordinary cost portion of the cost model, because those there again sort of fit into that general expense of providing those instructional services, because in the case of technical education, you can't really learn it without doing it. And so those occupationally specific supplies are handled under the extraordinary cost at this point. So they are not a fee-based situation. Those would actually be under the reimbursement, if you will, would be handled under the Excel and CTE tuition funding.
Okay, and then, so I think everyone knows how I feel about Excel and CTE fees, but in some instances, I noticed in the report that you shared, colleges identified optional fees, and then also I think the distinction between, obviously, I mean, in some cases, yes, an Excel and CTE student may complete a certification or a program or whatever if things align. But in most instances, I think they're taking a course or one or two courses while they're doing that. I'm just trying to wrap my head around You know, if we're charging fees because materials and court and stuff increase, why aren't we increasing tuition to do that instead of putting it on the fee side? And then also I wonder if there's a way, like some of the colleges reported that, hey, these 5 or 6 fees were optional in this course program or in this program, and these fees are really truly associated with what the student can expect if they're taking a course or 2 courses or whatever.
So what I would say about
A lot.
it is a lot, and I'm not even sure that I completely understand everything, so I might have to have you repeat some of it. But when it comes to the tuition portion of that, Excel and CTE is slightly different than the typical funding that you see for tiered funding for your regular post-secondary students, because at this point, the Excel and CTE tuition reimbursement is reimbursing at the full composite rate for each one of these courses. So the full instructor costs, extraordinary costs, institutional support, and instructional support, when the Excel and CTE tuition reimbursement occurs, we do not take then those numbers and run them through the funding formula to say, we're only going to pay for a third if the student is from the county in which the community college resides, because there is also other funding streams. The student is responsible for a third. In the case of an in-county student at a community college, the mill levy is responsible for a third, and then the state is responsible for a third. That doesn't happen in Excel and CTE. The full composite rate is what we're providing there, to try to help mitigate any kind of materials or other instructional barriers, challenges that might be presented that result in a funding difference. I'm not sure if that helps a little bit with the question of raising tuition specifically, because we wouldn't actually necessarily raise tuition, if you will, for Excel and CTE. Makes sense?
I understand. My fear is all along in looking at data of communities surrounding our community college, there's a significant amount of people living at or below the poverty level, and you multiply, and then you also look at students receiving free or reduced lunches at our high schools. That number increases beyond that. I feel for, I mean, we're in an awkward situation. We need to move on to get things to our education providers, but also I fear that we're kicking the can down the road and not addressing the true issue of trying to get our handle and an understanding of the actual fees and what may be the impact to the student who likely can't afford these fees.
One, I'm not sure about how to necessarily address that. The feedback that we have from the community and technical colleges, you know, we do know that there are certainly instances where, depending on the program, depending on the USD, what have you, there are some instances where the additional fees are certainly offset by other opportunities. Off the cuff, perhaps a little more information about some of those opportunities would be helpful to know about. And I don't know if Ryan would like to say.
You know, I don't know that it necessarily addresses what your question is. I mean, I do think that there were steps and measures taken this year specifically in going from what are the fees that could be charged to the fees that are being charged. But, you know, I think as we've responded and been listening to a lot of the conversation, you know, we make efforts, community colleges, and I'll let Jim talk for the techs, make efforts in working with everyone from the school districts to industry partners to be able to offset the fees as best as we can. You know, but I think, again, as we get into really looking at one, the demand and what it is that we're seeing, and then the cost of being able to provide these programs. It's, it's escalating and increasing and really outpacing what it is that reimbursement is many times. So, you know, we make every effort we can not to put it on the backs of students. You know, we utilize Perkins as best as we can there as well. So there's a lot of different variables, but you also have 26 institutions that are looking at it very differently in different communities on how best to respond and keep fees as low as possible.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments and totally understand that. I just fear that what we're looking at and reviewing is a public facing document. And, you know, are we, because of that document and because of what's on websites and even community and technical colleges websites, are we scaring people away? When in fact, if I don't know, let's say Garden City does provide all of this to the student, then say that.
Right. We do. So I'll use Garden City as the example. So we do not assess the fees for anything other than CNA. But we outline and make that very clear at the point of not just enrollment, but at the point when we're out in the high schools with our admissions and our tech recruiters. We're making that point vividly clear there to the students, the parents, the counselors on what our approach and how our funding for these particular classes is going to be. And I think that does carry through for the entirety of the system there as well, that while we put things on the website that say this is the best case scenario there of what the cost could be. However, we're also working and trying to figure out, are there some options that we can use to defer those costs from being applied to students? But, you know, at the point that we find industry partners or school districts that are willing to collaborate and come to the table, those conversations happen with those students in those programs ahead of enrollment or ahead of the program start.
No, you're going to be in the hot seat, Ryan, and I apologize because you're representing everyone. But if that's the case, could we say in this document, and I'll pick on again Garden City, that fees are zero?
Can we put in this document the fees are zero? I don't have, I mean, speaking for Garden City alone, that is our stance.
That would, for me personally, that would make me feel better knowing that, hey, we're not approving fees for Garden City because they're at zero, or any other college or tech college.
I think yes, I mean, I think just to push back a little bit there, I mean, and probably the concern that we've had all along, and I'll just say Garden City. I mean, we can list it at zero because that's our approach at this point. Now, at the time when we need to be able to come, yeah, the what if scenarios. Well, if we're approving it at zero for the year, but yet in the spring semester, we find out, you know what, we need to come back and be able to have fees charged for welding or for, well, you know, what's our avenue? What's our path forward at that point? You know, and so that's been my concern all along there is I don't have any issue putting zero out there for Garden City because that's our path for going forward. But the unknowns and the variables that can come into play, then when do we come back to say, you know what, we have to assess fees now?
Yeah, I get it.
And we do have, I apologize. I do just want to let everybody know and reiterate too, that we do have a process that we can use to assist with that. Because when a new program comes before the Program and Curriculum Committee and then the TEA, we actually have a form to fill out that says, these are the fees that we haven't been approved for before, and we want to get approved for this program. So that option, should an institution find out later, for instance, we thought this textbook was $50, now we find out it's $100, we don't have a different way to handle it, that can be handled that way, certainly. And then we also, Jim has his hand up.
And I see that, and Jim, I'll just defer to you to ask your question, but what I'm hearing is more of a communication issue of more so than the process of, you know, how do you change fees down the line? I mean, that's one piece, but the communication of, I mean, we're talking Topeka, we're, 80% or more free reduced lunch. You take a district like that and many that look like us, where students may not choose to attend because of the fees. That's what I'm hearing you say. And therefore, the statement could be something such as, we offset fees in such and such way, whether it's a Garden City, that was just an example, or any other space. You have in here in this report, and I'll pick on Washburn Tech a little bit, that, where you mentioned that there are several districts that, pay in offset fees, and then others don't, most don't. So I wonder if there's not a communication opportunity publicly, because it holds us accountable when we say something publicly in a document that says we try to assist in the following ways, when possible, or something to that degree. So when he says, if this is what you do, then say it, understanding you don't want to lose your flexibility, then the communication is, we don't charge for anything but CNA. However, we retain the right that should there be a need, blah, 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 blah. Does that get a little bit at, and that's communication across the board for everyone in a public document, so they stand behind that commitment to keep fees as low as they can for the young people that matter. And my apologies, Jim, I know you're in a waiting room, so I'll just defer to you, but I don't know if that gets to what you're sharing.
You spoke much more eloquently than I would have. So I appreciate that. I think it's the public perception is my point. If, just looking at the first page of Ag Business and Farm and Ranch Management, if we say, I'll pick on Allen, because they're A's. But if we say this is going to be free and we don't charge fees for this particular thing because of additional resources that come in, then let's identify that here.
All right, Jim,
Sorry, Jim.
go ahead.
It's quite all right. It's quite all right. From the institutional side, and I agree with Ryan and all of your comments. With our accreditation guidelines, other regulations, we're asked to be transparent, upfront with things. So I think probably for the vast majority, if not all 26 of the two-year colleges, I doubt highly if we've turned very many students away where payment of these things was an issue. All of our institutions and our staff work with high school counselors, teachers. As they counsel students, they let us know pretty early on, I got so-and-so interested, but paying for it may be an issue. That's when things kick in that informal network of how do we get this covered. The institution may waive it. We may know where they can get a scholarship. We may have no business, but we also have to be careful how we advertise that. A statement saying, institutions will try to work with someone where finance is an issue. Great. But we have to be very careful, one, that we're meeting our costs and those don't go down. But at the same time, the students who are able to put a little bit of skin in the game, and yet I get the whole thing because I'm a father who's had to pay those bills. The students who put a little bit of skin in the game, or they know that somebody's supporting them, they put a little extra effort into things. So please know all 26 of us are trying to keep those costs low for the students. And very rarely, like I said, has anybody ever been turned away. The support from Excel and CTE is fantastic. I think Ryan would agree, most of our other colleagues would agree, because of the nature of demand for skilled workers. A lot of these students are getting job offers more earlier. I think all of us are trying to push the kids to actually think about obtaining that certificate by the time they graduate high school. That's probably the one area that we need more push and more help on. Students may take a course or two and find out I don't like this. That's great. That's a good way to explore it. But at the same time, a lot of these students could complete that certificate or credential. We actually had a student from Wamego complete his AAS in welding with us the same time he graduated high school. Now, he was an exceptional kid, but those are the things we need to push. And then frankly, keep pushing with our congressman. How can we keep reforming financial aid to step in for some of these kids? When you need skilled workers, make financial aid available to help offset some of the costs. But please know, I don't think we've ever turned anybody away.
Jim, if I can ask you just a question, and I know from students that have come to your end of the world and have enrolled and have done well and have graduated, and in multiple instances, I can think of students who's, as you mentioned, you don't turn students away, but students who have had scholarship opportunities that were shared between your institutions and our counselors, and I can think of 3 off the top of my head in those cases. Is it possible that while you may not, share all of the creative funding mechanisms, and you've shared, you've done some great things for our kids in that space as well of, making sure that no students turned away. Is it possible that, you say, here are some of the scholarships, because every institution has some advertised opportunities that may or may not be as apparent to a family who may or may not go to the counselor. So, I just wonder if there are some things that are advertised that, yep, this is something we do. Every student doesn't get it. And even those that don't get that, you work with them anyway. But just here are some advertised opportunities to his point of how do you manage fees? Could that be a possibility across the board, certainly in your space, for the things that are advertised? So for the kid who doesn't go to the counselor, they know, hey, here's at least some mechanism. And we know they're far more than that. Is that possible?
Sure. And I think a lot of us do that through the counselors. Again, high school counselors or the teachers are the ones talking the most to the kids on the front end before we get in a lot of contact with them. But we tell our counselors, at least in our case, I know we tell them there are scholarships you can apply for. Again, the counselors often say, if finances are an issue, let me know. We'll start working on it. I mean, I can reach out to, I know a dozen business people off the top of my head in Manhattan, that if I went to them and said, hey, I got a kid who needs help, they're going to kick it in. They don't always want it advertised. That's the danger, if you will. But I think we could probably come up with an acceptable general statement about, if finances are an issue or whatever, please let us know so we can work with you. It's just that costs of things change over the years, books change, equipment changes, credentials change. We have to have the latitude of how do we roll with those things while we take care of the students and our bills.
Thank you.
Just again, a reminder, I think this is all good information that we're sharing today, no doubt. This issue is not just for today. This issue will be revisited again and again and again. No other reason the statute says so. So I think as we as TEA members, I know at least for myself, I'm getting a good feeling that the communication back and forth is, I think, helping us get a better understanding of the challenges you face as institutions, but it also is giving you some indication as to the concerns we have as TEA members. We feel like that, we have an obligation to ask the questions that are being asked. And that's just, again, to get a better understanding and hold us accountable for what we've been asked to do as TEA members. So I'm pleased with it. I know that this is just a beginning in some ways of an issue that we're going to continue to, as TEA members, to focus on. And I just would encourage the institutions, you take a hard look at yourself, and that's good. We take a hard look at ourselves and we ask questions. Don't be offended by that. Help us have a better understanding of what you face every day. So I'm pleased for the conversation. I feel like that, in my opinion, we're ready for a motion to accept what's being presented to us, and with the understanding that this is just the beginning and an ongoing conversation with the institutions, and how that shapes up. I don't know that we've determined that as TEA members yet. It could be a special committee to focus on the fees, and or it could take some other shape. But At this point, I'm ready for someone to make a motion.
I move, we accept the recommendation with the understanding that this is the beginning of the conversation and continued dialogue on revisions will be made.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion. My concern all along has been with student access, and I think I'm hearing institutions trying to make the best of that, and so I'm ready to approve, but next year I'll probably continue to ask the question.
Please do. Okay, third motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Mike, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, motion passes. So thank you. Thank you, Sharman, for making it so simple for us to understand that. All right, moving on. Other matters, we have Elaine Frisbee is here with us for a legislative update. Thank you for pitch hitting and filling in or whatever.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the authority. I'm sorry, Fred Patton sends his regrets. He was unable to join you this morning, and as was Kelly Oliver. So you're getting the third string fill-in here this morning to give you an update on where we are with the legislative session. So after reviewing over 1,400 bills over this last two biennium, the 23 and 24 session, we have made it to week 12 of the legislative session. Today is actually day 77 out of the 90. Today is the final day for non-exempt bills in either chamber unless there's a vote to suspend the rules, which they do that from time to time. First adjournment will be next Friday. The legislature will then take a 3-week break and come back to wrap things up. Their goal is to be done by May 2nd. During their 3-week break, we will receive a new consensus revenue estimate. That should be out around Friday, April 19th. That revenue estimate will then drive the discussion for their final wrap up and will take into consideration any tax legislation that is enacted or the budget and whatever transfers or other revenue items are in the budget. Both the House and the Senate have passed budget bills. There are some differences, and there's been one conference committee meeting so far earlier this week to talk about the differences. There are, of course, things we like and don't like so much. So Fred and his colleagues will be keeping watch and working to support the legislature through that process. Now that we're getting to this point, this later date in the session, it gets a little bit more challenging to track the contents of bills. If you're familiar with how they like to bundle things together and work through conference committees. So we are getting to that point. Conference committees will be meeting next week, not only on the budget, but also other education related items. We are hopeful that we'll get some things passed on our scholarship programs. So looking forward to that. In addition to the board's priorities, we are monitoring a few other things. New development just yesterday afternoon. The Senate enacted a bill, passed a bill. It needs to go over to the House now for consideration. That would provide state support not only to the state universities for their facilities, but also all 27, because it includes Washburn, $100,000 each for 6 years of state support for their facilities. So repairing and maintaining their facility needs. So an exciting development there for us, and we'll keeping watch. Be happy to try to answer any questions you have.
Any questions, comments? Moving targets, that's for sure. So thank you for taking time, pitch hitting. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on. Agenda. Virtual Healthcare Day. And Jaron, is it Caffrey? Well, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think your first time here, right?
It is, I believe, yeah. So thanks for having me. And I'm just a couple blocks down the road, so it wasn't a far trek to get here. But yeah, so I am Jaron Caffrey. I serve as the Director of Workforce and Healthcare Policy at the Kansas Hospital Association. And just wanted to share a little bit for a few minutes about our Virtual Healthcare Career Day that we have done this year. Was on February 1st to kick off National CTE Month. And we did this again. This is the second year in a row. We did it for the first time last year in collaboration with Natalie and her team at the State Department of Education. And We were really fortunate to have the team here with the Board of Regents, April and her team, to really help partner with us as 3 statewide organizations, with really the goal to make students of all ages, that really our main audience is K-12, or students that might be at a tech or community college, to really make them aware of the opportunities in healthcare. Because one of our goals at the Kansas Hospital Association is really to promote healthcare career awareness. Most people, regardless of your age, you know about doctors and nurses when you think of healthcare. But if you're anything like me, when I was probably at that age in high school, I did not want to be a doctor or nurse. But if you might know of some of the other opportunities, you might realize there is a place for me in healthcare. So I think you might have some information in your packet that covers a little about the day. We'll share, I think, a few videos in just a moment, but just a few kind of detailed numbers of the impacts of this event that we're really excited about. Last year, we had just over 2,000 students participate in the event, which for the first year, we thought that was huge. We thought if we could get a couple hundred students, that would be great. But we had over 2,000. In this event, it's from usually about 9 to a little after noon. We did it last year in April. This year, we did it in February, being a little better time to catch students and educators. But it's all entirely done on Zoom. And so it's really flexible for whatever works for the person watching. And then this year, you can see we had over 3,000 people that are registered, and it says students, and that really was the main audience. But we noticed this year we had a huge uptake in number of colleges that had either faculty and students participate, or students that were from a college participate. But we also had a lot of just adults, learners, people that were maybe wanting to change careers. They wanted to learn a little bit about healthcare. And so that was a great opportunity. We had hundreds of those, and then homeschool students as well. So we're really pulling people from a lot of different angles to, again, just provide this opportunity of what is a day in the life of a respiratory therapist or a rad tech, or somebody that works in health IT, for example. So that's been a great opportunity. And then we did grow in the number of schools that participated from a little over 150 last year to 160 schools, being K-12, college at all levels of college, both 1 year, 2 year, 4 year. So that was great to see that progress with numbers there. You'll see we did have 12 was the specific number of Board of Regents institutions that, again, either had a student come from, or maybe faculty or somebody there on staff registered a classroom, or whatever that might have looked like. So that was exciting to really involve the institutions at the post-secondary level. And we did have 2 colleges that helped sponsor the event. And part of that sponsorship was a video that they were able to display to everybody across the state that attended, that we showed in between some of those clips. So did want to just, not to take up too much time, but I think Vera might have a couple of clips we're able to share to give you an idea of what the day looks like. If Vera, we want to start with maybe the EMT video. This is, again, we had 8 different healthcare careers. So you will see one, just a few different snippets of it, but kind of what these look like. What are students and people watching it seeing? And then I think we'll have a few moments to share the college's sponsorship videos, because we are looking for opportunities for colleges to continue doing this. Next year, I think we got great feedback. We're going to be planning it again. I know April's team and Natalie's team, we're going to be looking in the next couple of months, and would look for more participation with colleges and involvement. So Vera, whenever you're ready, I'll let you pull that up.
Before she does, what did you mean at our age?
What did I say about our age? We'll have to scratch that from the minutes if I did. I think adult learners. So I'm looping myself with you. So yeah, you're not alone.
At my age, my hearing just isn't quite.
Right.
Or specialty of a healthcare facility, they all have one thing in common: their need for talented EMT workers. The team at Anderson County Hospital in Garnett shows us how EMTs and paramedics are integral to the daily operations of healthcare facilities.
Welcome to St. Luke's, a health system with multiple hospitals and campuses and hundreds of specialties and primary care practices. With thousands of employees, St. Luke's is excited to welcome more kind, motivated, and skilled people just like you. It's not all doctors and nurses. From the cafeteria staff to surgical support, housekeeping to security and lab technicians, there are rewarding opportunities for everyone. We're at Anderson County Hospital, one of St. Luke's critical access hospitals in Garnett, Kansas. This place is unique. While many EMS services are provided by a city or a private company, these first responders work directly for the hospital.
Just goes back to our training and our experiences. You know, we train hard, we learn from the experiences that we've gone through, and we work together as a team. We have a true hazard going on. We'll need to get her out as quickly as we can. So our main concern is getting a patient like this to a trauma center, such as St. Luke's Plaza in the city, just so they can get further assessment and do any interventions that they need to do.
Well, that was some exciting training, Troy. I know that our audience is potentially thinking about a career in EMS. What advice would you give?
Yeah, so you can pull up the Q&A just so you can get an idea. 8 different of these hospitals doing this video somewhat similar to this. And then we have 10 to 15 minutes of a Q&A. So students can live ask questions and we field those to the professionals. So you can share a brief clip, I guess, Vera, and then we can skip to the colleges.
Would you mind sharing a little bit of what you've got going on? And
you can see they were in the back of a hospital, actually, or excuse me, back of an ambulance.
Yeah, absolutely. So Cindy mentioned we're in the back of one of our ambulances here. So we wanted to share that experience and let you see kind of where our office is. So we don't have that typical office of sitting at a desk or working in a controlled environment. We have this big rock driving down the road.
So you get an idea, for a student to see that, oh, that's kind of neat. And then they're talking about what is their daily, what are they doing on a daily basis? And we kind of did a little follow up at the CTE conference that Natalie mentioned, kind of the week following. And we heard from a lot of educators that our students attended this event last year and they had no idea what career they wanted to go into, but they watched this and, now they are enrolled in a nursing school or they're enrolled in an EMT program. At a community college. So for us, that was great. Even if we could have those 1 or 2 students, but I think there's hopefully others, that means that something is working with this. So that was exciting. And then I think we do just want to feature, so we had Barton Community College and Kansas City, Kansas Community College that helped sponsor this event. And they each had a video that we played.
Are you ready to start your journey in the world of healthcare? Barton Community College is your destination for healthcare training in Central Kansas. With state-of-the-art labs and an exciting curriculum, we will prepare you for your future career. At Barton, we offer several career opportunities to suit your passion. Whether you prefer a fast-paced emergency setting, the structure of clinics or labs, or an administrative role, we've got you covered.
Barton offers flexible options including face-to-face, hybrid, and 100% online classes. With clinical opportunities for hands-on learning, you can gain experience in an environment that promotes growth and skill development. We believe in accelerating your success without sacrificing the quality of your education. Earn your associate's degree in just 2 years or a credential in a semester or less. Some cases, it can be as quick as 13 days. Accelerate your career with Barton Community College. To learn more, visit bartonccc.edu.
HealthWorks. At HealthWorks, we use our time, energy, and resources to spark action. We educate our partners, bring groups together, find funding, and provide.
I'm an international student. I'm originally from Kenya. I chose KCKC because it's a good environment. When I complete my studies, I want to go back to Kenya, my country, and improve on the quality of care over there because it's a big problem.
The school has the reputation for good education and good program. So when I'm done with school, I'm planning to work in the hospital.
Leading up to the program itself, I did all of my prereqs here, all online, because I have 2 sons who are 3 and 4. So being a non-traditional student gave me a lot of flexibility. And even within the program itself, we have a lot of time throughout the week where we can fit in doing homework and still be able to work and take care of kids and things like that.
I'm so grateful for being here and good opportunities here. It's a good place.
So again, just really emphasizing the opportunities here in Kansas. We want to keep students that already live and work in Kansas or live and go to school, whatever level that is. We want them to continue that and let them know that there are so many opportunities here that they can stay, raise a family, and have that future in. So we are planning this again for February of 2025. And our teams will certainly be looking to continue to involve our colleges. And I think we have some ideas of looking at improving that involvement. And we do have like this next steps segment at the end that I think will really try to emphasize more colleges here, the opportunities here, really how you can come into our institutions, what those pathways look like. Because again, we really want to break down barriers for people so that can really make it easier to say yes to college, to healthcare, to whatever that might be. So if you have questions, we'd be happy to answer those, but appreciate your guys' collaboration in this event. And we'll look forward to doing it again next year. So thank you.
Okay.
Real quick question. Are those videos on KHA's site?
So they're on our YouTube page. And then we did launch a website called happyinhealthcare.org. And that's kind of this one-stop shop we've created for healthcare careers, scholarships. We've linked to all of the colleges in Kansas. And so all those videos are also on there.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate
it. All right, we'll move on in integrating academics. And Laura, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chair Frederick. I appreciate it. We have a grant called Integrating Academics with CTE, and it is funded through the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, otherwise known as Perkins 5, and the Adult Education and Family Literacy Act, also known as AFLA. Grant funds are focused on the implementation of contextualized academic instruction in career technical education programs. Grant funds support implementation of strategies which result in completion of degree and certificate programs and/or provide appropriate professional development to support integration of academic instructors in the CTE classroom. Some strategies for this include implementing new partnerships between adult education and Perkins-approved career technical education, implementing academic curricula which result in completion of CTE degree and certificate programs in Perkins-approved programs, implementing contextualized academic instruction by adult education academic instructors and CTE instructors in the CTE classroom. We have 2 awards that we are giving this year. Flint Hills Technical College Adult Education is receiving $46,000. Their project includes that will combine the Flint Hills Technical College and the Flint Hills Adult Education's missions in providing access to the industrial engineering technology courses for their Spanish-speaking populations within their community. The IET, which is the Industrial Engineering Technology Program, opens doors for a variety of careers working with mechanical systems, electrical circuits, electrical motors and motor controls, hydraulic and pneumatic systems, and industrial automation. Students will also have the opportunity to earn the OSHA 10 certification, all while learning in a high-tech, hands-on environment. Our other award will go to Seward County Community College's Adult Education Center in the tune of $26,000. These funds will support a part-time success coach as well as an adult education and CTE faculty and developing contextualized academic instruction in the allied health and the manufacturing technology welding programs. The total in these awards is $72,000. And this is for informational purposes only with no action needed. I would stand for questions.
Any questions, comments?
All right, thank you.
Right, April. Going to hear about the calendar.
Yeah, the next 3 items also do not require a vote right now. So the first thing that we need to talk about is the AY25 calendar. As a reminder, our calendar, our meeting calendar, our committee calendar, and the program approval process calendar is approved based on the Board of Regents meeting schedule. So last committee meeting, I think that was on the 14th, Associate Director Chambers presented this to both committees that met. A couple of changes have happened since that day. The board has updated 3 of their meeting dates. So both February and March were originally scheduled for the 19th and 20th. Those have been moved up to the 12th and 13th. And the June meeting was originally scheduled for the 18th, but that has been moved up to the 11th and the 12th. We want to draw the attention to that just so you can see the new calendars will reflect those dates. If colleges printed that out, please just know updates have been made to that. Typically, when we look at changes, the board makes changes to their meeting schedules. We then need to reflect changes in our meeting schedule. Associate Director Chambers took a look at this and came up with the conclusion that we don't need to change the dates, the proposed dates that we have given you. Really, the turnaround time will be shorter for us as staff, but it really should have no impact on this committee or the colleges. So we would, again, like to tell the TEA members to review this over the next month or 2. We would also ask the colleges to review this. If there's anything major that we're missing, we're having a meeting during something major, please let us know. Either Vice President Johnson, Associate Director Chambers, or myself, please let us know, and we will bring this. We definitely have to approve this by May. Have to have this set so that we can move forward with next year. I would stand for any questions on this item.
No.
Do it next month, maybe, if you're ready.
I know. We understand, Mike.
So
All right.
excited to make decisions today.
Onward to goals.
Onward to the goals. Conveniently, the past vice president left for this conversation. So everybody give him a hard time. Oh, he's back. He's back. Dang, he heard it. It's fine. It's fine. So as a reminder, every year we have to set goals. The TEA has to set goals that gives staff something to do. But no, we have lots of things to do, but it also gives us something to do, gives something for the committees to work towards. In your packet, you will see the 10 goals. I think I'm ahead in the issue papers here. 10 goals that were set for the current year that we are in. Those 10 goals were split up between the 3 committees, except for number 1. The number 1 goal is to support the board. Everyone does that. Everything we do works up to the board. If you notice a change in your issue paper, if you look at the top of this issue paper, there's a little carrot with a pillar. So if you look at the board goals, their pillars, you will see community and state benefit, non-monetary benefit for individuals in society. So that's what this conversation has to do with the board goal. So we're trying to tie everything we do to the board goal. So that is something we have changed so that we all are on the same page with that. So as we look at the different committees, advocacy and marketing, they were tasked with, what number is that? Looks like number 9. That was their goal. Unfortunately, Eddie Estes has left the TEA, and we have not had very many opportunities to meet this year. However, the work and the foundation that committee had set, we have worked through some of the goals that they had. One goal was to improve the communications between high schools, teachers, counselors, businesses, all of the required partners under WIOA. If you didn't know, that those are all required partners. We did that this year, and whether the colleges know they did it or not, they did through the comprehensive local needs assessment required by Perkins. Every 2 years, they have to redo their application. Well, every year they have to do an application, but they have a plan tied to the comprehensive local needs assessment in which they have to contact all of these people, talk about their programs, what's the strengths, weaknesses in their areas, and plan out the next few years' funding based on those. So basically a good old SWOT analysis. The other thing that this committee has done, and maybe didn't realize that they have done, a few years ago, Senior Project Coordinator Tim, just blanked on your last name, Peterson. He did a Build Something Now campaign. I know he gets up maybe every year and talks about this. Through our very limited amount we're allowed to spend from Perkins dollars on marketing. So out of our $12 million award, we're allowed to spend $6,500. We have maximized that. So through other funds, we built this website that we currently maintain. Tim works with Cox Communication to send out a marketing campaign around the peak enrollment times. So we probably just finished one right around spring break. We started enrolling for summer and fall. So we had marketing campaigns. You might not have seen them, but if you're on the internet or if you're on social media, the little ads that show up before a video, or you're looking on Amazon, if you're looking on Yahoo and you see ads on the side or the top, we did those kinds of things. And I believe we've had over 7,000 people come to the Build Something Now website because of those marketing efforts. On that Build Something Now website, people can review or look up technical programs. They can look up funding. So Promise Act, Excel and CTE, they can look up funding options. They can also look up our institutions, and they will directly go to their pages. Regardless if you know or not, you guys have accomplished that goal. We move on to the Budget and Finance Committee. Looks like goals number 2 and 3 were assigned. For goal number 2, the extraordinary cost is an annual, or extraordinary cost review is an annual process. If you recall last year, we kind of stopped with healthcare. We ran into some issues with that and decided to take a break, come back this year and look at it again. So we are in that process. The data is due to our office by May 1st, making sure I have that date right. And Charmin will work her magic and the full TEA will see that next year. So August, September, somewhere around there, you guys will see that. So we have done that process. The third goal was to review the cost model. Vice President Frisbee gave review, a discussion about the cost model at our January meeting. And that will most likely be an annual reminder, refresher of how the model works, the cost component, the 4 different components that make up the cost model, and how that all works. Then for the Program and Curriculum Committee, they had goals 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. Way to go, Mike Beam. Goal 4 is complete. KSDE has a digital reference guide on their website for work-based learning. That process is done, complete. They did that in partnership with our office, but also Commerce, Labor. I'm forgetting anybody, but I think that's all done. It's out there. It's working. Work-based learning is off and running. A process and criteria for apprenticeships with the Department of Commerce has been completed. So that goal is done. Number 5, which is also in state statute, if you look at your next issue paper, and required by Perkins 5 legislation, is currently underway. So that is the alignment between secondary and post-secondary. We have started that process with welding and construction. We are nowhere near an end. We hoped that we'd be further along than where we're at, but we are not. Construction's on hold due to some changes with curriculum at KSDE. Welding, we have some issues that we're working through. So if it does not come to the TEA by May, it will be here probably August, September, somewhere around there. So we are working. That is a brand new process for the state. So it's working through a lot of kinks and details. Goal number 6 is another goal regarding apprenticeships. As we've stated, we have a process. We have how are we going to account for it set up. Currently, we have 6 apprenticeships that have been input into the KEDS system. We do know that we have more work to do around that. What's in the system are the standalone apprenticeship programs, but we also have apprenticeship programs where the students are taking the exact same thing that every other student takes. And right now we don't have a mechanism to track those students. So we're going to be working with our data folks to figure out how to do that. So we'll continue with that goal. Goal 7 actually happens every month. Every time programs are brought forward to you, we review the Excel and CTE fees. Goal 8 also happens annually. You just approved the Excel and CTE fees for next academic year. Every, I'm going to say October, we start that process and hopefully have that done and ready to go by March so the colleges can get that out so students know what to expect to pay. And then goal 10 is regarding business and how do we account for, track, report business and industry training. This is kind of one of those things that goes back and forth. We, as an agency, used to have a data collection. Roughly 3 colleges would submit data annually. So when we got together with the colleges to determine how we could relieve some of the data burden, one of the requests was to remove that data collection. So we did. There was also no money from the state to support that project. Welcome to 2024, and we have money that is for B&I and apprenticeships. However, no way to account, collect, report on any of that from the state level. So our recommendation to the full TEA is if this is a the money is going to continue into next year, that we work with the representatives from the community and technical colleges on how do we collect that information? What information should we collect? How can we do a data collection that is not so cumbersome, not so hard, not as hard as it previously was, but also gives us the data we need to advocate for continued funding. That's where we're at with our goals for this year. I think we're pretty much there with all of them. One or two are still in the process, but we've pretty much hit all of them. And I would stand for questions on that.
Okay, move on to responsibilities.
Making my job easy. So this is just a reminder of the TEA's legislatively required duties. So we pulled that information and gave it to you. You have 12 requirements per law. So as we are thinking about the goals we're going to set for next year, we should keep in mind the law. Are we currently doing all of those things? Set goals around that if we're not. The next page will tell you some additional responsibilities you've been gifted by the Board of Regents. So federal funds. So you have adult ed funding, you have Carl Perkins funding, we have lots of state initiatives that have been added on in recent years. Obviously, Excel and CTE, AOK, GED Accelerator, the High School Equivalency Program, Nursing Grant Initiative is a big one that we spend quite a bit of time on. Quite a bit that you guys have oversight over. We also have worked in partnerships with the Department of Commerce on different funding streams. So we are required of WIOA, Perkins and Adult Ed are both required partners. Workforce aid, just the internship grants. Sometimes you guys never hear about these things, but it's happening every day. Then we've also thrown in there the board goals. So if that's not enough to take into consideration when developing goals, we also want to be consistent with what the Board of Regents are trying to achieve. So as you are thinking about what do we want to do, what do we want to move the system towards the next coming years, remember these things. Remember what you're required to do by statute, what you've been authorized to do by the Board of Regents, and how are we consistent with their goals. With that, I'd stand for any questions.
Questions, comments?
I would just like to add, as you review these things and you think about what goals you might want to set for the coming year, you might want to pick out 5 or 6 major things that you want us to work on. This stuff happens all the time, and this is just our work product for the unit. And although you do coordinate and we bring things to you for your recommendations, are there certain items that you would like to focus on? And, 5 or 6 or 3 or 4 or something that is that you really want us to concentrate on working. And one of the things might be CTE fees, might be, again, the customized training, our connection with adult education, things that we want to help advocate and support, but really some focus goals in addition to what we already do. And as you think about those, if you would send those to us, either to April or myself, then when we come back next month, we can have, these will be our, these are recommended or proposed, or, we could get a long list, and from that list, then you all can review and pick out the ones you really want us to focus on for the coming year. So that's kind of why this is, we flooded you with information, but we wanted to give you a background. And affordability, access, and success are board pillars, but we're all supporting that too. So are there some activities or some individual things that you would like to see us focus on? And then, send those to us, email them, or send that information to us so that we can compile them and then share that with you at next month's meeting. Hopefully by May, then we can vote on what our goals are so that staff then can begin working over the summer months to get started on the activities.
One additional thing I will add is the adult education group used to be under the academic affairs unit. It was moved under the workforce development unit. Time doesn't have meaning anymore after the pandemic. 2019-ish. They have never been specifically named in the TEA goals. So that is something we may consider. They do roll up to the board's pillar, we believe, under the access pillar. So equity and access. So it would be good to maybe even talk to some of our adult ed staff on what goals should we have for adult ed, or even our institutions. What do we need to set a goal for adult ed?
Okay, any comments, questions? One of my goals was, when Smathers was here, is to get a raise, and I never got it.
It doesn't look good next year either.
Yeah, maybe. All right, thank you. All right, Rita, you are up for next two items.
And these are basically reminder items. The first one is the appropriations request. Each summer when the board has their retreat, they try to set, what they want to do is to develop a comprehensive overall budget enhancement request for the unified appropriations that they would then send to the governor and to the legislature for the coming year. And actually it will be for 2026. What you have in your documentation is the actual funding requests that you all forwarded to the regions for consideration as they develop their budget for the previous year. So these would be for 2025. These are the things that are currently being discussed across the street, some of those things. So, and as you know, we talked about the tiered, non-tiered, Excel and CTE, some of those things that we always do. We certainly would anticipate that you would want to continue support for. But if you look through some of the additional items that we submitted, some of them got added, some of them didn't. But if you can think about any additional things, or what kinds of things do we want to recommend that the board put in this unified budget. So that's what we did. There was the motion. Actually, this doesn't need to be finalized till May, but as we develop goals, there may be, we may need to look for a funding avenue, or if there is something that we're already supporting, is there something that, we would like to connect to this particular ask for funding for our institutions. So this is a reminder, and information to get you started thinking about what kinds of dollars we'd like to request. And the last one is a reminder that by May, at our May meeting, you will need to elect a new chair and vice chair for the coming year. So if any of you are interested in those positions or would like to nominate someone for those positions, please contact either Chair Humphreys or myself so that we can get a list of those who might like to assume those duties for the coming year. Any questions?
Okay, at this point, I'd like to recognize Mike Bean and we'll make a motion to the TA to recess into executive session.
Thank you, Ray. I move that the Post-Secondary Technical Education Authority recesses into an executive session to discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel. The subject of this executive session is of a personal matter and the purpose is to protect the employee involved. The session should last approximately 30 minutes and shall include the following persons, either member or body, or who will aid in the discussion. Those individuals or bodies include members of the Post-Technical Education Authority, President and CEO of the Kansas Board of Regents, Blake Flanders, Kansas Board of Regents General Counsel, John Yeary, and Interim Vice President, Madam Rita Johnson. The open board meeting will resume at approximately 12:20 p.m.
Okay, I would also, if it's okay with you, let's say at 12:30, I'd like to give the TA members like a 10-minute break.
Okay.
Or before we enter into our session, so we would come back from our recess at 12:30. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, let me remind those of you that are on Zoom to leave the public Zoom and join the executive meeting through the new Zoom link that was provided with you yesterday. Does that all make sense to you folks? Okay, looks good. So, okay, we are in recess. And where are we to meet?
Kathy Rupp.
Kathy?
You gonna call us back?
We're back in session.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the Technical Education Authority concurs with the personnel recommendations as discussed in the executive session on Thursday, May 28th, 2024.
I second it.
Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Just quick reminder, our next meeting is a Zoom meeting, April 25th, beginning at 10 o'clock. And we are adjourned. Thank you. Yeah.